that going here. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the stream here. I certainly hope you're doing well, because I'm doing pretty good myself here. I'm glad you guys can join me today. We're going to be back in some Planet Coaster here just in a moment. I do need to get one thing set up real quick that I did forget about. Let me get that pulled up here just real quick here. Shouldn't take me but a moment. There we go. Hit done. There we go. So, what are we doing today? Well, we're going to try to finish up Thunder Falls. We've been working on it for the past 2 or 3 streams. We got a lot done last time. I actually did a bit of work off camera too, so hopefully that we can get the rest of it done today. I didn't want to do too much off camera, just so that you guys can see the process too. Also, just give you a heads up today, I do have a plumber coming over, so I might just need to quickly mute it for a little bit to talk to him real quick. He's installing a new sink. So if that happens, just hopefully you can ignore it. Shouldn't take too long. You really should just have to shut down the water, just my right here. So if not, he may not have to come down here at all. So hopefully we can do a uninterrupted stream, but we'll see. Just wanted to give you a heads up. So what we'll do, we'll start today, and we'll actually do kind of a tour really quick of just kind of what I've done off camera, so you guys can get a little bit more caught up and things like that. So let's go ahead and pop into the game here. See here, we're in the park. We're actually not in Thunder Falls. We're actually in the administrative parking lot. Now this is a part I haven't really showed off too much. When I did my original tour through the lake, I think I did show this off a little bit, but not a whole lot. So this is kind of the administrative area. So this is probably a place that you wouldn't see a lot of in the guest. But I did put in a warehouse here. I did have kind of the basic structure of this already built, but I did want to complete it, so I do have a nice, somewhat simple warehouse. This is technically what would be the food service warehouse. So you can see in here, it's got some forklifts, some really right now bare shelves, and then these would actually be refrigerated units. So for storing any frozen or any foods that need to be kept cold, that's kind of where that would be. Just real basic warehouse, nothing too fancy. If you look here, this is actually the main gate of the park here, so it's just off to the right. So nothing really fancy, but most of the work I did would be over on Thunder Falls. So let's head over there, and you can see right away something's completely different. If you remember last time, this was all open. So I actually have fenced it off now, finally, connected over to this fence over here, and added the concrete pad over here. I did do a little bit of gardening here, mostly those red flowers we had along the ride there. I thought that'd be pretty good just to bring them on into here, just to kind of help tie things together. And I also had got the knack to put the rest of the bushes in, just to kind of help fill in the ride here. Now, originally I had thought about not putting these bushes here, but to me, let me pause again. Let's try to turn up the audio just a little bit more so you guys can hear the game audio a little bit better. Hopefully it's still working. I've had some issues with this the past couple of days. Let's see here. Maybe that'll work? Nothing's really coming through on them. That's what kind of worries me. Properties here. Let me try this one more time here. Because while you know, it's still, there it goes. I got a little bit of game audio there. We're just barely getting game audio today, which is odd. Turn it back down there. Alright, well, go back to here. So I decided to put bushes in here. I actually had a lot more in the way of bushes and trees here. But I trimmed it back just a little bit because I figured this would be kind of a hard space to get to for landscaping and things like that. So they would probably let it grow up a little bit more. I did keep one tree in the very back here. So it's not too awful bad. Now I did attempt to create a pump station. Not a huge fan of this one, because I realized this is a really small space for something like this. If you ever see some of these things, the things are massive. But essentially the idea is these tanks would store either chlorine or bromine, either one would work. They would actually be pumped into these tanks where water from the red pipes here would be pumped into them. They'd be run through these filters here and then pumped back out onto the ride here. This seems a little simplistic to me, and I wanted to get it in here, but I still think I might work on this a little bit more. How much, I'm not 100% sure. But for now, this would kind of work. This kind of wooden building here is just kind of a pump house. Nothing really too fancy here. The other thing I really did is I did do all the landscaping on this side. So if you look at it now, we do have a full hillside here of landscaping. I even added a few rocks in here. I think that looked really nice, kind of contrasting both sides. I think it made it look a little bit nicer, kind of broke up the green a little bit with some rocks, and did a little bit more down here by the gate to the backstage area. So I think that looks really nice. And the last thing I did kind of off camera was building this bridge over here. Now this is for the entrance. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of it, I'll be honest with you. Because if you look here, I like how this looks. The railings up top here, I think these look a little bit better than just these wooden stakes coming up. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this over to this style. I like that a little bit better, but I think I'll do that off camera. But you can see here, we do have a bridge here, kind of like some curbing done here. I'll probably keep this curbing, but I'll probably change the rest of it to the horizontal bars, or horizontal logs, just to keep it, looking a little bit nicer. But other than that, nothing else has really changed from last stream. If you were here, we did get all the station done last time. We got some wooded area done. We did update the merchandise store a little bit more, so it looks pretty nice. I still don't have any photos in here, but because I want to get the ride done first. So today, my goal is to get the rest of this done. Now it seems like a lot, but really, if you think about it, this whole side here, kind of around the corner here, and this hillside here is all going to be wooded. So that took, I think, 15 or 20 minutes last time. This is going to be kind of a harder section. This is going to be our loading and unloading area for maintenance. So I think that's going to be a little bit harder to do, but I think we can. That'll be kind of a more of our time spent on this, as well as we need to kind of fill in this area a little bit better. I don't know how we're going to do it quite yet. We'll probably do some curbing, maybe do some flower bushes, stuff like that in there. Well, that's pretty much all we really need on Thunder Falls to get it done. And I like to do a little bit of lighting as well. Add a few scenery pieces in here, maybe back in the cave here. If you look here, kind of a plain cave right now, so maybe we can spice this up a little bit, maybe, or even the inside here we might redo. Because if you look at here, I like how this looks, but it's really the only real kind of scenery part to this. So I think if we can get this done, or add a little bit more scenery into the cave and kind of the rest of the ride, I think we'll be pretty good. So I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to start on the maintenance section first. So let's go ahead and let's get some concrete laid down. So how do I want to do that? Let's use the curb path here. Okay. There we go. Or I guess it's pavement with no curb on it, and that's why I always call it the curb path. But yeah, I remember I've been wanting to build in here for a little bit now. I've been watching the Imagineering story on Disney Plus, and it's got me really kind of inspired to actually build in this park. I don't know if you've ever watched that. It's a great little series. I think it's only like six. I think it's either 6 or 7 episodes. They're about an hour each. But if you have Disney Plus and you have a little bit of time and you are really into stuff like this, watch the Imagineering story. It's a great little series. Essentially, what it is it tells a story of what they call Wed Enterprises, which is the people who actually design and build the theme parks for Walt Disney. He's the one who created them. And Wed Enterprises is, if you don't know, it's Walter Elias Disney. His initials, and that's what eventually became the Walt Disney Imagineers. And something that is like, if I were to say I have a dream job, that is my dream job, is to go work for Walt Disney Imagineering. And I don't know how long I've had that dream, probably since I was about 6, maybe. and watching that just kind of really kind of excited me again to try to push for it even harder now. So, unfortunately, it really I've been looking into actually some college internships. I would love to go work down there. I know they've kind of paused their local, like the Disney college program. However, I'm hoping maybe that I can do something remote. That'd be kind of neat. I don't know quite yet, but that's actually, funny enough, the college thing's been going pretty well too. I've actually been talking with a couple advisors this week, so hopefully something will come of that. I have a kind of departmental meeting with the IT department because I work in IT, I'm a software developer. I have that this coming Friday, so don't worry. It's actually happening after the stream, so I don't think I'll have to end the stream early at all. But I will. Now the music's too loud. All right. Well, this is just going to be a fun day all around, isn't it? So it's after the stream, so you don't have to worry about the missing Friday stream. But I'm hoping something good comes out of it because I really do want to start getting into the IT field and into into the IT field and back into the theme park business, because that's two things I do absolutely love. So kind of fingers crossed on that. But for right now, we're just kind of working on our parks here. Now I really don't know how far I want to make this down. Maybe one more square here. Just kind of see, let's see, something like this. Let's bring it over here. And probably need to rotate this one just a little bit more and bring it in something like there, maybe a little more than that way. There we go. That looks pretty good. And so essentially what I want to do here is I want to have a platform that I can unload, if this was a real thing, that I can pull boats down into here. I can actually unload and load them from here, and then not have to worry about, and they can also do some maintenance back here, but not a whole lot. So that's kind of the idea of what I want to go with. So let's go ahead and we got to level the ground a little bit. Just to do something like this. Can excuse my voice today too. My throat's been a little. I woke up this morning and it was hurting a little bit, and my nose was kind of stuffed up. So I feel fine, but my throat is not 100% great right now. So if I'm not as clear or I'm not as concise as I usually am, that's probably why. So we probably need to do a little bit more work on the curb here, because I think didn't quite get it how the arch that I wanted out of it. So let's fix, we'll go with this one, and let's go here. That looks better. We have to put another layer behind it too, so I'm not, if it's sticking over a little bit like that one, not too concerned about it yet. Essentially, I just want this to be a big slab of concrete. That's all it's really going to be, because that's all it would be in real life. It would just be like a solid surface where they can load and unload these, kind of unwieldy barge things. So. And I actually remember when I used to work for Kings Island, I've seen some of these being driven around. They would have to use pickup trucks, just nothing huge, but like a Silverado or something like that, and they would have a hay wagon. So if you don't know what that is, it's pretty much just a decent sized trailer. Has two axles on it, but it can kind of stand on its own. It's not dependent on a vehicle. And they would use one of those, and they could haul one of those barges on there. And I think, if I had to guess, probably Kings on their rapids ride probably had 40 or 50 of those. And so you just see them kind of doing a loop, trying to get all of them out from our maintenance department. So, of course, when you work there during the preseason, you see a lot of rides like that. I don't know what other rides were. I mean, I know I've seen some coaster cars that they would wheel out there. They would usually use a telehandler, kind of like a big forklift to drive the coasters out there. Except if they were coming from somewhere else. So if they're coming from a manufacturing plant, they would have it usually on a semi first, and then they would deliver them like that. Let's see what else. I know the electric scooters that you can rent if you have some issues walking around the park. You can rent electric scooters. I do know for a fact they used to ride those into the park. They would do maintenance on them in the auto shop, and then when they were done, they would just drive them out to the rental location. Because I used to do that. When we actually got the year I used to run it, we actually got 30 new ones, and the easiest way for us to do it is we would walk over to where the truck dropped them off at, and we just grab a set of keys and drive, and that's all we did. Probably a good hour, because it was a pretty good. Well, it was probably about more like half hour, 45 minutes. It was still a pretty good walk to get to those things, but we would try to race each other through the not really. I say race. You really can't race on those things because they don't go that fast. But we would we try to see how many we could get done and see I was never the fastest person to get those, but we always got them in there, so it was a fun little thing. But I can't even imagine what Disney's looked like. I mean, I've seen some photos of theirs, and it looks like how we have a warehouse here for its food service. I've seen one like that is just full of scooters, and I'm like, it's probably in the hundreds easily for theirs. We were barely breaking maybe 50, so that was pretty crazy in and of itself. So here's my idea for this. So we have all this laid out here. I'm thinking we put a control panel somewhere down here. We do need to move this tree a little bit, because I do want this to be a real tree. I don't want it to be like a hold on here, private group. I don't want this to look like a fake tree, which it should be a real tree, because I think that'd be kind of nice to see some real nature around here. But essentially I want to put a control panel here that will allow the gate to swing open and close along these rails here. If you weren't here the last couple of times here, we do have these logs here are technically, I think this would have been realistic, or would have worked, but each of these pillars actually slide along rails, so they actually can slide along here and allow all the logs to kind of swing out of the way here, and this should be wide enough for our boat to then float on into the maintenance area. So this is what this is. So I want a control panel down here. I probably want at least one, maybe two cranes here, so they can load and unload boats pretty quick. As a matter of fact, I think I even have an overhead crane from the Theme Maker's Toolkit that I haven't used anywhere. So I think that this might be a pretty good slot to see if we can use it. It may not be 100% perfect, but we'll give it a try and see how it looks. So here it is. Let's see here. I think it needs to go this way. So let's work on the crane next, because why not? So I'd like it to have, let's see here, I think something like that. It's going to need some sort of rail system to move back and forth. Let's see here. Actually, you know what? Let's rotate it 90 degrees. So I want to have this, kind of the rail part to move kind of back and forth over the water. Something like that. It's going to stick out quite a bit there, but I think, what if we did something like this? Hold on, let's try this. You know what? Let's rotate it this one. If we rotate it 90 degrees, let's see here. This is the thought I'm having. If we rotate this 90 degrees and then move this to match up with this rail, then we move both of them over the water here, like so. If we build a base over here, that's a pretty sturdy base. I think that'll be kind of enough reach because it looks like this crane could very easily move over to here. I get that there's a bar here, but you know, you gotta suspend fantasy. You gotta suspend your reality a little bit for some of this stuff. But I think that would work out just fine. So I think what we can do is go to buildings, and then go to supports. Say, oh, that's not it. This is what I wanted. I'm trying to figure out which ones I want now. These might be a little big. These are bigger than I thought they were. Let's see here. I guess I could do something like this. Hold on. Let's not do that. This will make up the kind of the bigger base part of it. So let's rotate this like this first, and then move it up, and then need to turn it just ever so slightly to this way. Nope. Not 15 degrees too much. Infinite Gaming, how you doing today? Let's see. I think that's better. And I'm going to place that one out. I'm going to do kind of a same thing. I'm going to rotate this and move this across to here, like that. That should be a good foundation. I'll show you what I'm doing here in a second. But I'm doing pretty good in Infinite Gaming. Thanks for asking. That's way too big. That's not. I wonder if this might be still a little too big, but I think this one might be better. Yeah, that should be a good length. Let's see here. Can I align that a little bit better here? There we go. Do something like this. A 45. That might not be enough here, so there we go. Let's tilt it back just one more. Let's get this paint in the correct color here. There we go. Is it summer for me? Yeah, technically. I mean, it's been in the upper 80s or upper 80s, like low 90s the past couple of weeks. So it gets pretty warm where I'm from. But it gets pretty warm here. So I would say, yeah, we're pretty much in the summer now. Or at least into summer, I should say. The problem is with where I live, it gets really humid here. And so it can, it could be, only 85, 90 degrees outside, but it'll feel in the hundreds. And so that's kind of the issue I always have, but it's not too awful bad, I guess you could say. Because, you got places like Florida, which I've been to, I go to quite a bit when I go to Disney. It's always humid down there, so I've been trying to get used to the heat. I can kind of get used to humidity and stuff like that, so it's not awful. It's not awfully, or not too awful bad. Yeah, San Diego, I've heard it's a great place. I mean, anything out in California, I've heard it's pretty cool to be in this time because there's no humidity out there, and that's kind of the nice thing about it is that there's just but that's kind of the problem though. It just when it gets to it, they call it sticky. When it gets too hot, it's hot and sticky. And the problem is, it's like because how your body cools off, you sweat, and the sweat evaporates, and that's how you cool off. When it's too humid outside, that doesn't happen, and so you just feel hot all the time. Now, thankfully, we have a good air conditioning system here, so it's not too bad. But it still can be, there's still some days you walk outside and it feels like you're getting hit in the face with heat. And it's not great, I'll be honest with you. But you just gotta learn to live with it, and once you learn that, it's not too awful bad. Let's see here. We're not really that far off over here, so let's move this in a little bit. Like that. Yeah, if you can see here, we're working on a crane. Very amusement parkish. This is more kind of behind the scenes stuff than anything else. Let's see here. If we can do something like this. And like this. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's get some wheels on this thing. Let's see what kind of wheels we can get. Because the idea is I want to have this to be able to roll back and forth to actually be able to pick up cars. Infinite. If I showed you the entire park, and I'll give you a look, just kind of an overview shot of it. It's a pretty big park that I've built. If you want to watch, I have the. If you watch my YouTube channel, if you scroll down from where the stream is, there's a link to my YouTube channel. I think it's there actually is one called Tour of Thunder Lake. I actually gave you the entire story of Thunder Lake there, so it's probably a little bit better there because I don't want to cram. It was like I think it was like a 20 or 25 minute tour into like a 2 or 3 minute segment. So if you want to watch it, that's probably the best place to see it. But yeah, so it's a pretty big park and. There's a lot of details that I explain in there that I would kind of rush through, so I really want to kind of concentrate on getting this ride done because we've been working on this for the past couple of weeks, but I want to get this one done. So if you want to watch it, I would say go there. Let's see here. Let's see. You get some wheels on this thing. Maybe something like this. I know it's like Back to the Future, but I think these could very well be like industrial size wheels. If I did something like this and then rotated this 90 degrees, sunk these in just a little bit here. I know we'll have them kind of sticking through there, but I kind of want. It's like I could fix that, and I have an idea for that. But if I did something like this, then go over to Art Shapes. And go to here. You know what? Let's see. I want to hit Align to Surface. There we go. If I do something like this. Well, I'll think it's like I've been trying to think about how I want to do that because I thought about putting this on rails, but I don't think rails would be like the best idea for it just because, who knows where the crane might be might need to be used. So I'm not 100% sure how much. I'm thinking about doing something like that or something like that, kind of like a container crane in a shipping port. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. So. Let's see here. If we do something like this. Oh, didn't take that first one. There we go. And up. And across here like that. How's the backside look? Okay, so we gotta do the same thing on the backside. That's no big deal though. Night, thank you. I do appreciate that, sir. Something like this. Funny enough, I'm not, I don't do this for money or anything like that. To me, I'm doing this because I'm still looking for a job, and I still am. Still working on that part, but, I did this for fun, and it seems like my Planet Coaster streams have always been the best ones. Were the ones where I can kind of share my story when I worked for Cedar Fair. I can also share some Disney stories as well, and kind of what I want to do and things like that, so. I think so far it's been working out pretty well. I'm actually kind of surprised how well this crane's turning out. Funny enough, I actually did study construction equipment for a while. When I went, I used to study at the University of Cincinnati. And one of the classes I actually took, that didn't work out well. I'm going to copy this whole thing. But one of the classes I took there was construction equipment. And it was just a class to tell you, was teaching. All right, how in the world did I do this? Hold on. I know I'm trying to tell a story too. Oh, it's two different groups. That's why. That would make sense. All right, let's back out of here real quick then. And let's just grab both of these groups here. Add and edit. There we go. But I used to study construction equipment in the whole class, which it seems like an odd class, and a little bit it kind of was. But essentially, we learned what equipment does and how they operate and stuff like that. So I had technical manuals on quite a few different pieces of equipment, and cranes were kind of a big part of this one, because you had to learn what their lifting capacity was, what you can do to modify it, how big certain things, how to actually move certain equipment and things like that. So I had to learn quite a bit like that, and I just remember, because the guy who taught it was a really nice guy. But he would actually spend the time. It's like, all right, cool. This is what it was. This kind of crane. If you want, this is what you would use on this project and this kind of stuff. So I remember studying this for quite a while. So it was fun. I mean, this stuff like that I love doing. Because originally, kind of my idea was, you got to remember when I was studying at UC, I was still hoping to be. I'm still hoping to be a civil engineer. I think it'd be a great job to have because it kind of fits in with me wanting to work for the Imagineers. But funny enough, I lost my train of thought there, and it's gone. I don't know where it went. So let's drop that conversation. But I think something like this. I don't need anything too huge. But you got to remember, these things are pretty heavy. I mean, they're probably a couple of tons. Probably about 5,000 pounds, if I had to guess. Maybe a little less. Maybe about the size of a small car. That's about what I'm thinking here. So these cranes would have to be pretty robust to be able to lift these things. And so I'm thinking here we need some sort of gantry system. I'm trying to think how I want to do this. What if... Hold on, I'm going to go back to support here. Because there is a piece like... I'm thinking here. I don't... Well... That's kind of what I'm looking for. It's not quite... Try this. Hold on. And let's bring this across here. Give us a little bit of horizontal support here. And then realize that my supports are completely off, and then have to readjust them. That's probably... Actually, I'm going to do this one first so I can figure out exactly where I need to put the... like that. Because the idea is right now is I want to put cables that run from here down and here down to here. There'll be a motor over here somewhere that this arm can actually lift up. So, kind of take a little more inspiration from kind of like a docks or something like that. And it seems a little large, and it kind of is, but funny enough, I don't know if that would completely fit a raft inside of there. Because essentially, what would happen is if a boat was here. A boat would then be lifted straight up out of the water, okay, across here, through this support here, and then onto a trailer here. That's kind of the idea. So I'm trying to think how I want to do the cables now. So I will need some cables. Let's go ahead and just grab them. let's see here. Something like that. That'll work. If I align it to this surface, move it down like this. And this might be a little overkill for something like this, but, you know, I was kind of in the mood to do something like this, so why not? I guess it might stem from watching that, because I've been watching. If you guys weren't here a little earlier, I've been watching the Imagineering story on Disney Plus, and that is a fantastic series if you ever get to watch it. Essentially, it tells the story of the Walt Disney Imagineers, of how they got started and things like that. It's an incredible story of what they, you know, how they came up with stuff, how they built certain things, and how they kind of transitioned from building Disneyland to building every theme park they've done. So it's an interesting story if you do have Disney Plus, and you have, it's only, I think, 7 episodes or 6 or 7 episodes, and they're about an hour each. So if you get a chance, watch it. But I've been watching it, and it's like, I remember, you know, I knew a lot about the story because I've always been a big fan of the Imagineers, but I really didn't know some of that story, how all that came together, and it's pretty incredible on how some of this stuff was built, and how they would take just simple technology and make it into an attraction. And so, you know, I always thought that was kind of neat. So let's see here. I think it's something like that. If I turn this just a little bit more, go, and I think it's something like that maybe. Let's get the other side done. Rotate it in just a little bit. And over, down. Now I'm trying to mirror it on this side, which is a little difficult, but that's okay here. There we go. I think that looks pretty good so far. Now we got to do pretty much the same thing on the other side, but I think no, because if we do the same, well, if we do technically the same on the other side, it won't quite be the same. Because I do want it to go down to essentially a cable spool. Do something like this. And back this way here. So let's get a general idea of what we want to do. You know what? Hold on. If I do something like that, if now I can actually make a cable spool here to look like it's coming out of the same spool almost. That would save us a little bit on efficiency there. Wouldn't kill our parts then. Let's do something like that. Let's see if we can maybe, I have an idea, and I think, no, this can't be recolored. Oh, this can't be recolored. I think it's a little large, what I'm thinking here. Let's try it. Because why not? You know, if we don't like it, we can always change it. But yeah, I think that's a little too large for what I'm thinking here. I was kind of hoping I could just connect this up here and having, you know, the cable spools like that. But since we're actually making technically a motor out of this, or like a cable spool out of it, we will need something a little bit smaller so that it looks like it can move. So, you know what? Let's first get a support. I think the supports we were using here are great. So let me do something like this. Let's see how that looks. I think that should color it correctly. And then move it. Something like this. We can always trim it down to size, and I'll show you what I mean by that here in just a moment. But I think that's a little bit better. Let me go back to scenery here and go to get a round shape. Something like that maybe. Something smaller. This don't have to be this medium shape, isn't it? I think so. Alright, well, that'll be okay then. Something like that. I can always make this a little bit smaller by doubling up there. And let's do the same on the other side here. Let's pull it all the way out to there. And come on, game. I think I'll have to turn down the autosave like time, because it seems like there's quite a bit of time that it just, you know, there's not a lot of time between autosaves. So there's that. I think that'll be just fine. Now what I do want to do though is I want to take this one out here and move it out this way, and I'm going to make it a different color. I'm probably making it like a dark blue. I want this to look like an electric motor on the side here. You know what, let's actually do a square first. And we'll do something like this. And then bring this out this way. Like that. It's not perfect, but I mean, that's still not too bad at all. It looks something like you would see on a dock, which, fair enough. That's kind of what, you know, that's what I was inspired by. But yeah, I think that's going to be our lifting crane to get our boats out of the ride here. But I do want to move it down just a little bit. So I'm going to take this whole thing here, hit X, and move it. Look at this. Like it. Alright, let's move it to, let's just rotate it just a little bit here and move it out into the water. Like so there. I think that looks pretty good. Alright, now somebody, I think, Infinite Gaming mentioned that I should put some concrete so it can be moved. I don't know if it's really technically would be a railing. Like, you know, like if you look at some dockside cranes like this, they would have rails they would run on. Now, I don't think that would be quite, you know, would work for what we're doing here. However, I'm thinking if we do kind of a, let's see if we, it's kind of a something like this. I'm thinking something like this though, and so you can kind of see where the tires have been. Like they've been running over the same spot over and over again. They've kind of left a buildup of rubber or something like that. I think something like this would be kind of nice. And also kind of give that feeling of, yes, there is, you know, it kind of runs along this tread here. So, you know, if you see it moving, you can kind of guess where the pillars are going to be. I think that works pretty well. Let's do something like this. I think I add just a little more detail so we don't have this flat concrete pad here. So let's do something like this, and we'll just kind of continue it along here. It's a little hard to work underneath the crane, but, you know, happens. Let's do something like this. This might take a little while because I could use a bigger piece, but I think with something like this, it might be easier just to use the smaller pieces. Just so that you can get the same, you know, get the same width across. You really just have to worry about the positioning there. Something like this. Here's kind of the other thing it's kind of been a little bit bugging me with this park. This park was not really made to be a huge budget park. This would be kind of a local attraction that would have the locals, and you would maybe have a few people that would travel from outside of town. It really reminds me of the park I used to work at called Kings Island. And if you haven't heard any of the stories, if you want to go back and watch the best bites of the Planet Coaster videos, I tell a lot of Kings Island stories in there from when I used to work there. You know, it's very similar to that, to where there's some people that would travel, you know, 2 or 3 hours to come down here for a day or so. I know I actually met a father and daughter who drove from, like, got up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, because Kings Island opened at 10. It always opens at 10 for some reason. But they got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, drove from West Virginia to Cincinnati, which is probably about a 4 or 5 hour drive. They were going to spend the entire day at Kings Island and then drive home that night. I'm like, that's ludicrous. But that's kind of cool to have that kind of, have that kind of day out, which, I don't know if I would do that. I mean, technically there is a park. There's another Cedar Fair park in Ohio that I could do that with. It's up in Sandusky, Ohio. It's called if you heard of Cedar Point, it's the same company that owns Kings Island. So can I give you the idea of what the parks are all about there? Let's see here. Do I want to continue this? Because I want to have a little bit of storage here and then an access for trucks here. So this might be all that the crane would travel. So it looks like it probably could, pick up and drop off maybe 3 boats here. So that might be pretty good. So let's do something like, I've selected part of the crane there. Didn't want to do that. Something like, well, that's not it. That's not it again. There we go. Let's get rid of this one and this one. I know we might have to edit these just a little bit because technically the outside would be a little bit longer than the inside would be. But something like that, I think that looks pretty good. We need some sort of stopping system to where they can't go. If you ever see these cranes, they have some sort of buffers on either end so they don't go too far. I think we need something like that. Let's see here. If we do something like this, and then something like this, I'm going to rotate it up just a little bit here, and like that. We'll just, with something like that, I think we'll put like something like looks like a tire on the end here. Let's see what kind of circles. Let's see a medium circle. How big is that? That's a little too big. Something like this, maybe. And we'll just put 2 there. And then let's do the half. If we get the half circles in here, if I can find them again. I have a hard time finding the half circles for some reason. Let's see. There they are. And we rotate these 180 degrees. Something like this, and like that. Maybe we only need 1. We probably just need 1 if I had to guess. Like that. And then make this. Come on, game. There we go. Make this a red so that people can see it so they don't hit it. Let's make it a lighter red, like it's faded a little bit. Something like maybe there. I think what we can actually do is actually make this look a little bit better here. Do something like this maybe. Make this that pinkish red. And rotate this around. Down like this. Just kind of rotate this a little bit more here, and we'll slide this into there. Just kind of like that a little bit. I think that'll work. Maybe we'll actually bring this down just a little bit more, just so that we do something like this. Let's actually rotate this around and this down a little bit better. I don't like that anymore. Maybe just 1 there. I think that'll work just fine there. Let's do something like this. Now I know I can't remember who it was. Somebody there. I think there was a collaboration, but there was a group of people doing like a Cold War era factory roller coaster. And I don't remember who that was. It looked really nice. I do remember that, but it just kind of, I don't know. I guess just building these, they hit a huge dock area. It kind of reminded me of this. I don't know why, but it's a neat coaster. I mean, it's amazing what some people do on Planet Coaster with what they have here. Now, fair enough, with the Theme Maker's Toolkit, it's really added a lot to it, but even still, doing some of these people building custom signs out of these art shapes is incredible, and I can never do something like that. I tried it once, and if you watch this tutorial, you'll see it. I did it for my ride called the Stinger, and it's not great. I'll be honest with you, but yeah, I'll stick to construction equipment because apparently I can build cranes and trucks and stuff like this pretty good like this. I don't know, but yeah, I think that's a pretty good looking crane for this ride. Maybe a little large. I admit, might be a little larger than one might think a crane could be. But I think that works just fine. So let's get our control panel down here. I'll probably just use a Theme Maker's Toolkit item because I really don't need anything too fancy down here. And you know, I just think something like there is something that's called, it's from Shunt. If you look up Shunt on the Theme Maker's Toolkit, you can find a lot of stuff like this. But I'm trying to find, there's a couple of good ones. You can get something like this, which is actually on a display stand already. But I don't think that's the one I'm going to go for. There's some other ones I'm thinking of. You know what, though? Actually, you know what? I think this is what I'm thinking of. Yeah, there it is. Let's get this one rotated into place here. This would probably have some sort of cover on it, I'll be honest with you. And I don't know how we're going to do that yet, but we'll figure out something. You know what we could say? That's a pretty... you know what, though? We can use this, though. I'm going to rotate this. Let's rotate it up like this. And around. Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking a different one here. But something like that could be kind of neat over here. I know we use a couple of them actually over in our control center that's actually in the cave there. That's pretty neat. We're going to actually get a couple more control units too. I think I downloaded these for the control center. They just never used them because I think I found them afterwards. They look really good though, so I don't see why we couldn't use something like this. And they're a little big, fair enough. But you know, I'm gonna put a little bit of a fence here, and I think we can put some stuff on the fence to make it look a little more, workable. Let's see here, fence. This is more for just the employees so that they wouldn't go back in here and cause trouble. Because there's employees that would do that. I actually didn't spend a year working with human resources and stuff like that, so I can kind of understand what employees do some silly things sometimes. Let's see here, maybe something like, I would only want anything fancy. Maybe something like this, and we'll just paint it brown, something like that. That looks a little more gold than I'm thinking here. So let's, there's the colors here. Let's add a little more red in there, just so that it looks a little bit more like a brown I'm thinking of. There we go. And one more, there we go. Yeah, that looks a lot better now. Just want to put it, let's not align this surface right now. Let's do something like this. Slide it back here. Got probably another smaller one right here. And like this. Keep rotating this around. Something like that. Just something to help, to tell employees don't go over here. Because technically we did have a path, which that might be part of the story where there was a path up here at one point that an employee could actually stand up here and look out. But I think, that seems like a little more rudimentary system than what we'd have now. So I think that looked pretty good here. What else would we need for a raft ride? Like, what would you use in storage? I mean, maintenance usually wouldn't keep any tools or anything like that. Funny enough, they do have a lot of maintenance areas for rides and shows and things like that. But a lot of maintenance people actually have trucks that they just drive around and they keep all their stuff on these trucks. That might actually work pretty good if we did something like, number one, having a truck be able to fit under here is a good thing. Didn't plan that, but it's a good thing. So let's actually put a truck on this end so the show we can actually drive down here. Then we got to figure out a way for them to actually get down here. Do something like this. Let's actually do this position, snap, and rotation. Something like that. Let's get a wheel of some sort on there. Let's see here. Something like this. Or not. Maybe like something like that. That looks better. Something else I've learned when doing this, if you want to make your tires look, or your trucks look a little bit heavier duty, if you put 2 tires on like that, it looks like it has a dual wheel to it, or it has like a deeper dish to it. So if you're just kind of curious, if you have the position snap on, it'll actually, like, if you click it once and then pull it back a little bit, click it again, and it'll actually position snap like that. And I think it'll look a little bit nicer than just having a single wheel like this. Or, come on, truck. There we go. So instead of like that, you actually have essentially a dual wheel there, or something like that. I like them a little bit better like that. Now, fair enough. Most park trucks that we had like this were not this big. This is actually quite a bit bigger than what we would have. Think about, if you're a car person, think something like a Chevy S10 or a Ford Ranger. Kind of like those were the kind of trucks we had. So these are a little bit bigger than we had. These are more like landscaping trucks, but so that's what we got in Planet Coaster right now. I think that'll be just fine. They'll be painted some sort of boring color like a white or gray. There was a few red trucks, I think there was. I know when I worked in food service, our trucks, we had one truck that was white that had a flatbed on it. The other one I think was either like dark red or like maroon. And then when it's merchandise, our merchandise truck was purple because, hold on. The van was purple. So we had a van that we used, like an old like Chrysler, and then we had a Ford F-150 that we could drive around, and that I think was gold. So we had some really odd colors of trucks. It was essentially what people weren't using anymore. They were starting to get some new ones when I left. But yeah, these are just what staff members would use. It was interesting. So they would like something like this. They would have some sort of rack on the side. So they would have ladders, their toolboxes, and then it kind of depends on what department you were in and what else you would have on your truck. Electrical department, of course, would have wires and lights and things like that. If you work in carpentry, you'd have wood or other projects you were working on. If you're in HVAC, you had things like more pipes, specialty wrenches, things like that as well. So I know I've had to call maintenance quite a few times. So you see them a lot, or you see them driving around too. Let's see here. I swear I also had a toolbox that I could put on the back of this thing. Excuse me there. A pressure washer probably wouldn't look too awful bad in the back of this thing. Just to make sure it's show, because they also could be doing cleanup work or something like that on rides too. So maybe they were hosing this back area down a little bit, because I know I've pressure washed a couple places before. That was more before the park opened for the year. So, if you guys don't know, like, the place I used to work at, it was open seasonally. So, that means we would open between usually April and October when I worked there. Now it's like April through December. Cosmic Matthew, thank you for the follow there, sir. I do appreciate it. So when I worked there, so we would start actually in March to get park ready, or probably even before then. And so one of the duties we used to do, we would go out to different parks and we'd actually pressure wash the stands. We've pressure washed a lot of. If you went to the water park, we pressure washed all the cabanas and all the furniture out there to make sure they were 100% clean. But we did that usually about a month before we would open. I don't. This might be a little large. Oh, well, that's totally fine. I do appreciate the follow there, sir. Let's see. What else can we put in the back of this truck to make it look like it's, you know, maintenance-y? I think that we put a trash truck back here. You know, these trash trucks we used. I don't know how many of these things I've pushed around, and when I say pushed around, so essentially what these were. There was all different kinds of names for these things when I used to work there. We've called them Barneys, we've called them banana boats, but essentially all these were just big dumpsters or small dumpsters we could throw our trash into before if we didn't have a chance to actually run down to our dumpster. If you think of amusement parks, I mean, Disney's a little bit different on how they do theirs, but how we did ours at Cedar Fair is we'd have these things at the back of our stands, and usually rides have one, or each ride has one too, and they would change the trash out, and we would just we would throw it in the back of the stuff here, things like that. But you know what? It seems like a couple people have been asking me about a tour of the park, so let's take a time out because I think right now we're doing okay with this. So let's just kind of back it up a little bit and just kind of show you the park here. So if you guys haven't seen, I know it's been a couple episodes since we actually seen the whole park. This is actually what I've built so far in this park. It's actually a pretty decent sized park. I won't go over, I won't go over the whole thing. There's a really cool, I did a YouTube, or there's a video on it if you want to see every little detail I went into for this one, but I'll go over kind of what the park is. So we started over here, and this was kind of the entrance here. This was kind of loosely based on Universal Studios Orlando. This is the one, when I first started building this, I had just gotten back from a trip to Orlando. I actually visited Universal for the first time, so I really liked how their entrance was. So I kind of wanted to mock this up, kind of like that. Where if you walk in that one, they have a big parking garage, and when you walk into there, they have this hub area that kind of all the parking lots go into, and there's the security there, and then you go out, and they have these huge bridges over the entrance itself. It kind of loops over itself. So I kind of wanted to give that feeling a little bit, and I liked how this bridge turned out. See here we do have some parking lanes open. I didn't open up all of them because I don't really think that this would be, all the lanes would be open at the beginning of the day, but towards the end of it, or about halfway, maybe about 1 o'clock, maybe 3 or 4 hours after the park opened, they would close most of these lanes off because there wouldn't need to be that many people in here. As you can see here, this is the name of the park. This is Thunder Lake. Thunder Lake, I actually came up with that name. It came from an old game called Trains Railroad Simulator 2016, I believe it was. There was a route on there that I really liked called Thunder Lake. It was just a really beautiful area. It was like kind of foothills of mountains, and so that's kind of the idea that I wanted to kind of go for here. And then this actually would have been one of the 2 tunnels that actually leads over to the parking area on top of this hill here. This is eventually going to be a highway that actually runs through here, so that kind of gives you an idea of where people would come in at. I just don't have it done yet. I've been trying to play around with a couple ideas of how to actually build the highway itself. So, it's a little bit hard, harder to think of, a little bit harder to do. There's a couple people that have been doing road tutorials that I've been trying to look at and things like that. So those tunnels will actually come out. One comes out here, and one comes out over here. You know what? Let me put the park in motion so you guys can see it. You can kind of see how the park actually works. So this is our big parking lot here. We do have a little bit more preferred parking. We do have some nice buses over here. These would either be school groups or tours that people give. We also have a few semis out here. I know I've got a friend of mine who drives semis who also loves amusement parks. So if he is going nearby one, he'll actually stop there for a day usually. Especially if he's ahead of time, he'll stop there, eat lunch, and ride a couple rides before he has to get back on the road. My grandfather was a truck driver, so he used to do stuff like this as well. So I was a big fan of that. So if you look here, this is it's a long park, kind of a long, narrow parking lot. This sweeps down here. Eventually, there are some trams that go around here. There's a tram stop here. You can actually see a tram there going around. Tram stop back here, and a tram stop right back there. It's pretty neat. And then this is actually the spawning area for the guests. So But for some reason, everyone seems to want to ride this tram here, and it's neat. It actually looks like people are actually coming into and out of the park. I really like how this looks. Now this is just a really generic entrance, but I do like how it looks. The wrought iron, for some reason, I really do like that look. So you can see here, guests with bags and guests without bags. It's kind of a splitting up. This would be kind of the baggage check area, although they all seem to walk right through the middle, but there's a few people that walk around the outside, so that's pretty neat. We do have a bit of security over here and things like that. Nothing too much. There's some landscape. There's a small landscaping truck that I put here because when I used to work at Cedar Fair, we saw a lot of these just riding around, and usually they would have big plants and stuff like that on the back of them. Just they would be carrying different plants to and from the greenhouses and things like that over to where they're going. So then we come across here. We actually go across the big bridge here. So this is the one you can see from the entrance. Haven't really detailed this one yet. I've been trying to come up with an idea of how I want to do this. I thought about completely encasing it in glass, just to make like a big glass tunnel, but I think that would be a little hot. Maybe that's just me though. I mean, this is a game, but still. So you have the employee entrance right here. It's a little small. This isn't the main employee entrance. That hasn't been built yet, but I have an idea of where I want to put that. Then you have the main gate here. It's a little rusty. This is one of the older parts of the park. We do have some guest relations over here. Those are pretty nice. And then we do have some restrooms on the other side here. Then if you walk through the tunnel here, you actually get a nice picture of the fountain here and people stuck in the fountains because for some reason they always love getting stuck in the fountains. Or people just like jumping in the fountains because it's too hot. I don't know. But yeah, we usually will just pull them out and make sure they're okay. I think it's the benches along there that get them stuck, but that's okay. Maybe we just say people are splashing in the fountain because it's kind of a tradition here in the park. So then you see right behind here we do have kind of the main kiosk or the main sign here, Thunder Lake. I do have your ability to take your photo here. Looks pretty neat. If you go across here, so if you turn left here, this is what the original park was. Kind of the idea was this was a lakeside destination with a little bit of a boardwalk that you would go here, you'd go camping and fishing and things like that. Kind of as a relaxing weekend. We do have some lockers over here that look really nice. So this is kind of the original boardwalk area. Thinking like 1910s, 1920s kind of era. This would have been built, so you have nice picnic shelters over here. And we have a few smaller rides. We do have the Scrambler. If you kind of walk down the main drag here, we do have the turkey cart here, which is kind of near and dear to my heart because this is something that I love to see because this is my first job at Kings Island was working on the turkey carts. This is the first kind of big coaster. This would have came after the flood of the lake. Kind of the idea was in the 50s there was a huge rainstorm that flooded this whole area and actually wiped out most of the boardwalk, and so at that point is when the original owners sold it, and it kind of became Thunder Lake Amusement Park at that point. But this is one of their bigger expansions. This is called Splinter. This is our first kind of big coaster in the park, kind of modeled after the Beast at Kings Island. It's a really neat little park. I do like, that's a great coaster. I used to work the merchandise store of that quite a bit, so it was always kind of fun. And then you have kind of the Eagles ride, so some smaller rides here, nothing too crazy. But then you have the last surviving buildings of the boardwalk here. I've always liked how they, this was actually also that same vacation that I worked, or when I went to Universal Studios, I went to I stayed actually at the boardwalk at Walt Disney World, so this is kind of inspired by that. You really couldn't tell like, oh, this building exactly like this one. Like, now this is just kind of idea wise. I took a couple inspirations from there and kind of built some of my own. So this is kind of just the smaller rides. We got a carousel here and what they call the Zephyr. I did try the gondola ride here. I don't know if that'll stay, but I kind of like how it looks there. Now, I did mention a little bit earlier that there was a sign that I did customly. This is actually for this ride. This is Stinger. This is just a little ride. I got the idea from watching Bro Coaster. Bro Coaster did a ride called Rickety Cricket that I really liked how it looked. So I wanted to come up with my own style of coaster like that. This would have been the original employee parking lot, so that's why it's kind of this flat black area, it's interesting. I want to go back here and actually create some lines. So it looks like there was some employee parking here at one time. But yeah, here's that custom sign I made. I'll be honest with you, it's not great. It's still pretty good. You can tell it's a B, but it still needs a little bit of work. This is like the first or second one I ever did like this, so it could use some work. But yeah, that's kind of this side of the park. And so this is kind of where, a lot of this is older stuff except for that coaster. It's a little bit like that was kind of the older part of the park. This is kind of the newer part when they actually decided to put this into an amusement park. You have the administration buildings back here. A little kind of boring. That is our first warehouse back here. They're kind of working on that a little bit more lately. You have a stroller and ACV rentals here. This is the first place I actually worked in merchandising. This is the first place I actually managed. So that was always a fun time to do. And then we have our pizza place here. And you can tell here, there is some pizza pens, stuff like that here. There is things like that. Pizzas and stuff like that. Matthew, I will take a look at it here in a little bit. I try to work at my own parks a little bit. I will be more than happy to look at the park maybe after the stream maybe and kind of comment on it. I always like exploring other people's parks, but I do like sticking to my own right now. But I don't mind giving you a tour. I'd be more than happy to. I'm proud of this work. I mean, this is stuff I want to do as a career, so maybe one day. But you kind of get into the newer areas. But I do appreciate you guys being here. Thank you both. This is kind of the newer area here. This is actually, if you watch the older live streams, you can actually watch me build stuff like this. This is actually the viewing area for our fireworks display, which I haven't built yet, but that's probably the last thing I'll do in this park. But something like this is kind of a nice, just little like snack area and overview and things like that. I really do like how this looks. And then we have our shrimp shack over here, which I think is the first thing we might have built completely on stream. And you actually see here we do have the menu boards and things like that. We even have souvenir bottles, because if you've ever been to one of these parks, they always push the souvenir bottles, which is, I think, is hilarious. Coming around to this side here, we do have a nice patio that leads into the go-kart track just over on this side here. This is called Thunder Alley, if you couldn't tell by the sign there. This one's a little bit easier because it's just letters. Still pretty nice, though. It's just a small little short track, go-kart track. Similar to the actual Thunder Alley that was at Kings Island before they took it out and they put Banshee there. So if you know where Banshee is, that's kind of where there's a go-kart track that was right in front of there. Excuse me. And then this is probably my favorite coaster so far. This is the first coaster I ever did almost all custom supports on. I didn't do quite all of them because it got a little tedious with the corkscrews, but I did a lot of the custom supports here. This is called Shockwave, and this is an Aero corkscrew coaster. This coaster is based on the now defunct coaster called Vortex. That was at Kings Island. That was one of my favorite coasters there. And unfortunately, it was torn down at the end of last season. It was getting old, unfortunately. But yeah, this is almost a recreation of it. There's a few minor differences to it, but that's how this is kind of how I envisioned it. So it worked a little bit better this way, at least I thought. Then if you can walk down here, this is kind of the 80s section. So this part of the park would have been built in the 1980s. So that's why we've been doing rides that were very popular back then, or even came out during the 80s. Things like the more modern bumper cars. The Discus ride was actually like early, like 1990, but I still included it back here. We do have a nice area here. It's nice, all wood and things like that. We have a nice backstage area here, and then we have a nice restroom here, which is actually based on a real restroom. I don't know why I did that, but it works really well. And you actually can see if you go to YouTube and watch the best bites. If you guys are curious, there's a link to my YouTube channel just below the stream here. You can watch the best bites, and I actually show you the real, like kind of the comparison of the real restroom and this one. I actually have a couple photos of it from when I used to work there, so it is pretty neat. So we have that. We have the bumper cars over here, and we're back over to where we were actually at the beginning of the stream here. So this is our kind of the next ride we've been working on is the Thunder Falls. This is our rafting ride we've been working on recently. So yeah, it's kind of a neat park. It's something I've been working on since January of 2019. I've been kind of working on it off and on since then. Between trying to find a job and working on other things as well. It's I've given me a little more time during the pandemic and things like that to work on it. But at the same time, it's like I really do like stuff like this. I'm really getting back into it. So that's kind of the tour of the park. That's kind of the general overview. There's a couple other rides that I've kind of placed in here. I don't know if they'll be staying right now or not. Just because it's all open right now. I don't quite know. That's the ride that I'm thinking about adding in here. But yeah, that's kind of the park, and and a couple people already asked me today for this. So hopefully you guys kind of got the idea of this park. It's a fun park. This is just something I do for fun, and I hope I can continue doing this. And I love theme parks. I love making people happy. I love when people enjoy stuff I do. That's kind of one of the reasons I kind of liked working for amusement parks. What I did was I made people happy. I made people enjoy themselves for a little bit, so that they could forget what was going on in their life for just a little bit. And that's always kind of something I've always loved, just to kind of see that, just to show people that you're right. Things might be going on. Things are a little crazy, especially right now. But something like this, or even going to a real amusement park, can just kind of make you forget about that for a little bit. And that's always been something that I've loved to do. That's something kind of maybe why I do this, is that it can kind of get me away from what I've been working on and what I've been struggling with. So yeah, let's get back here. Let's get back to working on Thunder Falls. Just for a little bit here. We got, I think, the backstage. I want to leave it alone for right this second here. I want to put in the foliage around this outside next, just so that we have an idea of where we want to end this at. However, I do realize that there is no way to get this truck out of here. So what we'll have to do is probably do something like this. If I come back in here with a little bit of terrain, let's see here. If we go back this way, and just kind of carve it into the mountain here. It seems a little odd that you'd have a tunnel here, but if we do something like this, won't go all the way back with it, but I think we can actually add in like a portal almost that looks like the truck can go back in and out of here, and still have plenty of room, so they can actually have a way to get back up to the main road here. We might have to put some sort of exit over here somewhere. I'll have to think about that, but yeah, let's actually, since we do know that, so we can just add our concrete into there. So I think that'll work. So if I do something like, I think I think I'll just curve the concrete and just kind of make it look like not like a road, but maybe like it's still like a pad, but they kind of curve the pad up this way. So hopefully the guests wouldn't see this, but probably a good idea if you looked in the right location. If you knew where you were looking, you would probably see this. And it's possible if they were driving back here, you would hear the trucks going by. Once again, unfortunately, this is not a Disney park, but yeah, it's amazing. If you ever watch anything like that, how much planning they put into a Disney park, it's fantastic. I remember this weekend, I just heard for the first time the 4 levels of detail in a park, and I never heard before. And if I remember correctly, the 4 stages are they set up a story, which is kind of interesting. So the first part is detail level 1 is you're standing on a hill in the countryside, and you look over the forest and see the church steeples in the town. That's level 1. Level 2 is you're walking down Main Street of the town, and you see the benches and the people and the flags and the just things like that in the town. You kind of notice a little more detail. Detail level 3 is you walk up to a building, you're standing on a sidewalk, and you're looking at the building. You can tell the architectural style, you can see the small details, you can see how the paint's looking, if it's an older building or a newer building. And then the detail level 4 is actually when you reach out and touch the building. You actually, like, they were using a brass handle. Is the handle new? Is it old? Is it painted? Is the paint chipped off? If it's older, is it worn out? Is it have some indents where people have been using it? And that's kind of all the 4 levels of detail. And one of the Imagineers was talking about it, and he goes, for every park, we want to have a level 4 detail in everything we do. And that is a little bit crazy if you think about it, because how in the world do you get that sense of, being that immersed and stuff like that into a park. That's one of the reasons it's been so fascinating to me, because you get all these little details that you would never notice until they kind of like highlight them like that. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've always wanted to be an Imagineer, just kind of that level of detail and how in the world would they do something like that. And so I don't know, maybe that's just me. Yeah, but I think that'll look pretty good. We'll put some guardrail or something like that up here so trucks wouldn't drive off, because knowing somebody's almost driven off or has driven off this side. So yeah, it looks pretty good there. So let's work on some scenery then. I think some scenery will look like just some trees and bushes here. If you remember from when we did the station here, we put this tail out here. This tail is actually from this plane here. So you kind of get a little bit of a story. Maybe the plane crashed back here, and they're like, you know what? We don't really have the funds to put it back together, so let's just throw it on the roof there. Fair enough. So let's get some. We'll put a few bushes here, but my throat is not doing great right now. Get a little more water here. Woke up this morning, I was a little sore, but I thought I was going to be a little better at this. So kind of the idea I want to do is I kind of want to create some bigger bushes along the bottom here, and then the trajectory of the plane would have taken when it would have fallen. I want to put some smaller bushes in, so it looks like the plane kind of mowed them down just a little bit. Let's actually kind of rotate them just a little bit here. Press them down like that. So it looks like they were kind of pushed off to one side here by the plane, and I think that'll work out pretty well. Then we put a bigger tree back here. You can really kind of see where the plane would have gone. That's kind of the idea. Maybe we can even exaggerate it a little bit by adding a little bit bigger plants along here. Now it'll help kind of hide that tunnel a little bit too. And then we'll add some of the forest bushes, which are a little bit different color too, I believe. Add them up along here. And then we'll kind of drop it down this way. You can kind of see what I'm going for here is a little bit, a little bit shorter grass. So it looks like the plane, though at least the tail kind of cut through this area here. I think that works out pretty good. I think the idea for this is the company that manages this river rafting expeditions is not the best company in the world. They're they're adventurers. They're made for adventure, but they still might not be the best. So I'm thinking something like that. I think that looks like a plane just kind of cut through these bushes at one time. That looks pretty good. Now, if we leave, we might even get a few parts and just leave them out here, just to make it look like there was more than that. So let's actually let's get some trees out here. Let's get a nice ash tree. Something like this. And let's rotate it just a little bit off to the hill here and then down a little bit to where it looks like something's hit it, but it didn't fall completely over. It just kind of leaned it, so kind of like that. I like that. What else could we? I mean, I'm trying to think of what else we could do maybe in here. Let's see here. Line to surface here. I want to just kind of click a bush there. Let's I'm going to put a little bit more grass below bush below the tail here, just so that they have a looks like it's kind of resting on something. It's not just on ground. Kind of makes a little more sense to me, at least. Something like that. Then we can start kind of building up the bushes around the front of it a little bit more, just because technically wouldn't have on its descent down would not have hit these bushes. So something like that. We also need to add just a little bit of color in here. And I'm liking these like red floral bushes in here. Just add a little bit of pop of color. We've done it on the other parts of the rafting ride here. Stuff like that. And I think that looks really nice. Let's see, what other, we can add maybe some of these red leafy bushes, maybe in the back here. Just kind of like this. Like that. Yeah, I think that looks good. And then I think we need to get just a little bit either, just parts of the plane. Let's see, I think we type in plane here. Get a few other parts here. What other things do we have? What we could do is actually, we'll have to hide a few things in here. So we can do something like this. If we rotate this down, I'm trying to just hide most of this engine in the ground here. Because I just want to have it to look like there's a prop sticking up like that. To where maybe, you know, part of the engine's in there. If we take something like this and like flip it upside down like this. Actually probably need to rotate it like this to make the story a little more believable. And just have a landing gear sticking out there. Like that. Let's move this down a little bit more, maybe a little closer to the ride so you get the guest can see it. Yeah, something like this. It looks like a debris field. To be honest with you, but you know, this is kind of the idea I wanted to go for with this. So let's add just a little bit of a wingtip here, maybe impaled on the side of the hill here. Yeah. It looks like maybe they didn't get all the parts out of the jungle, and you know, some of it's still there. And then let's get some crates in here. And so what I want to do with the crates is I want to look like it was maybe carrying something, cargo of some sort. That's not what I wanted to do. And then I'll just have these kind of buried into the ground here to look like they were on board, but maybe some of them didn't make it. Like, well, I mean, passenger-wise, they probably all made it, but you know, the crates and stuff like that probably were not going to survive this very much longer. Something like this, and we'll rotate this back and a little more forward like that. And some of the smaller ones like this, well, let me get something like this. Some of the smaller ones would have gone a little bit farther than the bigger ones because you know they have less to hit, like less surface area, like that. So I'm thinking something like that. And we'll come back in here with some bushes and trees, of course, but we won't make this very maybe something like this. I love using this stuff for some reason. It just seems like it works well everywhere. And we're just going to come through here and kind of patch this along here. Not quite what I wanted to do with that. But like, you know, the bushes have been cut away here because the plane impaled itself into the ground here. But something like this now. Rotate this down and like this. Alrighty. I'm thinking something like that. And that's kind of the look I'm kind of going for. I'll mix in a few bushes. I'm trying to get this in here. Just a few bushes along here. Like that. And kind of mix it in like so. You kind of get an idea of, you know, I'm going to do like a little bit larger bushes in the back here to make it look like, you know, it was still okay over here, but these the ones near the ride are more unfortunately kind of mowed down and stuff like that. Maybe they are growing a little bit back. Maybe this I mean, typically the ride was built, I mean, in kind of in the lore of the park, would have been built in the 80s. So this would have been a little bit, it's been a little while since this was all built, so it could very well have grown back up around it. So, you know, let's kind of duplicate this around here. And, you know, we don't have to put it in every place. We can just kind of dot it around like this and make it look like, and we can have a little bit of ground showing. I'm not I'm not completely against it. I just, if we were going to do kind of the foliage around here, kind of like that, I think that kind of tells a story there. You know, it tells that, yeah, there was a plane crash here, and then the rest of the plane is now sitting on top of the roof. Kind of gives you an idea of what happened to these guys. Maybe that, no one got hurt, thankfully, but there's still parts of a plane sitting in the middle of the ride. Kind of the idea there, but that's just me. Let's do something like this. And the tree, maybe this one got hit a little bit harder. Maybe got hit by a crate. It's fallen over a little bit more there. Yeah, I think that's a good kind of scene. It's kind of the idea. I wanted to have a scene of some sort here. But yeah, let's go ahead. It's a lot more foliage than I thought there was. But yeah, I think that will look just fine there. Let's go ahead and just start placing more bushes along here. Rotate this around. It looks a little like all one color, so let's go ahead in here and let's add a few more of these lighter bushes to hopefully kind of break up the two tones of green there. And we'll also add in a few of these red flora bushes in there, just to, number one, help kind of tie the ride together, but also bring a little bit more color to it. That looks a little bit better there. So there is that part, and so we're about halfway through the stream right now. We haven't really got much done, but that's okay. I don't mind improvising a little bit. So I think, what do we want to do next? Do we want to start working on the floral here? Because I'm thinking we do something like, not like a temple maybe, but I've been thinking about doing something a little more like an adventure kind of thing here. Maybe like a big statue again, or something like that. Let's pull up the, you know what, I need to go back and scenery, don't I? I think I do. You know what, let's do a generic temple here. Nothing really too crazy, but we actually can finally use the temple pieces for what they were meant to be used for as a temple, which is kind of funny, but thinking here, not aligned to surface, something like this. We'll start doing a staircase. Maybe the staircase got eroded right here by the river that they're rafting down. Well, let's see here. Let's get these two highlighted. Let's add this group here. Yeah, let's keep on working our way up this hill here. Now, if I was playing this a little more, I'd actually have a story of why this temple is here, but, I keep on going back to Disney, and don't get me wrong, I love Disney, and even my shirt today is a Disney-inspired one for Test Track, the original Test Track ride. They would have a plan. It's like, all right, this is who this is. This is what this temple is built for. And this is kind of the story behind it. It's like, I don't have, in games like this, it's a little bit harder. It's like, all right, how would I do this? Stuff like that. So I think we're okay with this. I want it up off the river just a little bit like we have it. Might build it up a little bit more than that, but let's do something like this. I'm trying to think of Disney stories to tell you guys, because, I'm trying to think here. I think I've been to Walt Disney World in Florida 22 times. So I have quite a few stories just going there different times, and I'm trying to think. So one of the ones that comes to mind all the time is the if you guys have ever been or have seen photos of it, you've probably seen photos of the ride, the Dumbo the Flying Elephants ride. It's a fun little ride, mainly made for kids, and essentially you sit in a Dumbo. There's different colors of Dumbo, things like that, and you have a controller that you control how high they go and things like that. And I was riding that one time with my dad, and this has been, I think I was like maybe 5 or 6, and so we're on the ride, and actually this right after the ride ends, we decided to get off. Well, how that ride is built, the ride cars can bounce a little bit. Well, my dad wasn't paying attention, and he caught his foot on the edge of the platform, fell right on his face, scraped his knee up. The ride operators were terrified because somebody had just fallen, and I was laughing. I was 5. I thought it was funny. My mom was, less enthused, but so he got up. He was fine, just had a scraped knee. Well, I wasn't paying attention either, and likewise, I did the exact same thing with him. I fell flat on my face. And now the operators are terrified because now 2 people have fallen in the span of about 30 seconds off of their ride. I was no longer laughing. I was bleeding from my knee. And funny enough, my mom had never carried a first aid kit up until that point. But because of that, that is the reason she carries a first aid kit with her anytime we go anywhere. But I remember the bench is still there, but the ride had moved since then. Of where me and my dad were sitting on a bench, getting our knees patched up by Disney medics because we had fallen off the Dumbo ride. That's one of the there's stories like that I have, but that's just something neat. That's one of the reasons I love Disney so much is I have those memories of being down there and doing stuff like that. I remember, I think the first time I went, I was 6 months old. I turned 25 next month. It would be a month and 2 days. So a month from Wednesday, I'll be 25. So, I've been down there probably about once a year since I've been born. So it's a neat place to go. And when I have all these memories and I have that kind of drive to want to work there, and it's a neat experience. I'm trying to think of some other stories too that maybe a little more funny like that. Let's see here. I mean, I've been stuck on a monorail before. It's not something you would think about. But we were staying at, this is only about maybe 2 years ago now. We were staying at the Polynesian Resort, so it's one on the monorail. So we were going back to her hotel. It was me and my grandmother. It was the last time she went with us. Her and I were going back to the hotel room. My parents were going to go do something really quick and meet us at the hotel for dinner. And so I'm like, I'll walk back with her. It's a really neat walk. And it was a little bit closer to actually get off at the Great Ceremonial House and walk over. So we were about to get off the monorail, and we were just sitting there waiting. And it was a kind of an off time to be on the monorail. It was us 2, and then there was another couple, and we were actually kind of by ourselves in one pod. If you ever sat on the monorail, there's 2 benches that face each other, and there's 4 benches in each car. We had that one section by ourselves, and then there was an older couple on the other side, and there was a younger couple with a kid in the stroller. That was it in this monorail. So we had plenty of room. We were all sitting down there, and we were waiting to get off. If you ever rode the monorail, there's a chime, there's like a dinging noise that you hear, and then the doors open. And when we heard the dinging noise, we all got up, and nothing happened. And we're like, okay, well, guy forgot to push the button, whatever. So we hear, a minute or so goes by, and we hear the dinging noise again. Nothing happens. And we're like, all right, well, something's wrong here. Nobody was panicking. That was the good thing. But they're like, what do we do? I mean, how can we get out? It's like, number one, we were in the station, so they were about to let us off. So, worst comes to worst, they can open the doors manually. But what happened was something had gone wrong with the computer that operates the monorail, and just wouldn't open the doors. So what they had to do was they actually shut the monorail, that train down, and then started to back up. Kind of like if you ever hear anybody in IT, I know I hear it all the time. If you turn it off, turn it back on again, it works fine. That's essentially what they did to the monorail. And once they turned it back on, it ran fine. And we got off and went to dinner. So, but it was probably a good, 5 or 10 minutes that we were stuck on there, unfortunately. But still, kind of fun. Something different. You never know what's going to happen on something like that. And fair enough, we weren't in a hurry to get to dinner, thankfully. There has been times that we were in a hurry to get to dinner. Funny enough, there was another story we were at. This is just from different years. Just what I can remember is the way I'll tell them. But we were at Animal Kingdom that day. We usually plan each day we go to one different park. So we were at Animal Kingdom that day. We were going to ride Kali River Rapids, which, funny enough, is what kind of the ride we're working on here. And we had never rode it. Just not something that we were just, rapid rides were pretty good. But we're like, you know what? We're going to try new things at Disney this year. So we were going to ride that ride. And it was me, my mother, my cousin Courtney, and my dad. So we all get on the ride, and it's pretty big. And we never rode the ride before, so we didn't know what to expect. We knew it was a raft ride, so we might get wet. And right after this, we're like, cool, we'll get this one last ride in. We'll head over to dinner. I think we were having dinner at Chef Mickey's or something like that. So it was a pretty good drive. Well, for the bus driver, we were just sitting on the bus. And we get to the part where it goes down the big hill. So if you know any good raft ride, they have a huge hill that they go down. And they kind of creates a big splash. Everybody gets wet. You may get soaked. And we're like, oh, whatever. It's probably not going to happen to us. Well, it happened to us. Let's put it that way. If you know how these rides work, if you're sitting at the point of the very front of the tube when it goes down the hill, you're going to get soaked. And all four of us were right at that point. And I kid you not, we got drenched. We couldn't. It was like we were. After that, we were walking through water. It was a little rough because we had to get to dinner like right afterwards. So we had to do like a mad sprint out of the Animal Kingdom, drenched in water, and at the same time we were trying to catch a bus back to our hotel, which was a different hotel than where we were eating dinner at. It was just a whole mess. But we made it, thankfully, so that wasn't too bad. But we did have to change clothes after that, so that was it's a fun time, though. So, but I've never had a bad experience at a Disney park. I've had some experiences that are maybe not as good, but I've never had an issue with them. I'll tell you another thing that happened to us. We were staying, this is, I think, the last time when we went to Universal Studios, we actually went to Disney afterwards. We stayed there for a couple of days. And we were staying at the Art of Animation Resort, which they say it's a value resort, so it's like the cheapest one they have there. It's still a fantastic resort to go to if you ever get to go. And if you're looking at that, it's a great one to stay at. But something had happened. Oh, that's what it was. There was a pipe that broke in our room, and so part of our bathroom was actually flooded when we walked in. And we told the manager, we weren't mad or anything. We were just like, hey, something broke. We don't want your carpets to get ruined or something like that. It's like but we want to make sure you guys take care of that. And they were thankful for it, and we didn't think about it, and we just went on with our day. I think we went to the Magic Kingdom that day or something like that. Well, the manager called us and said, hey, can you come down to the front desk for a little bit? Like, sure, whatever. And he gave us all 3 free fast passes for the day. Like, that's great. Because we can use those however we want to. There were no limits on them or whatever. There was an issue, though. They didn't work, unfortunately. So we were walking through the hotel later on that night. We're like, at that point, we're like, yeah, whatever. We didn't expect them, and if they don't work, whatever. But we're not really ones that go and complain, especially something that was given to us for free. Funny enough, the same manager was working that night, too. And he actually came over to us and said, hey, how'd you guys enjoy your fast passes? And we're like, Well, they actually didn't work for some reason. They're like, all right, hold on. So he actually pulled us back up to the front gate, gave us, I think, 5 free fast passes for our entire vacation. And he goes, and made sure they worked before he left because he wanted to make sure to thank us because we found that pipe in his room. And I think that's hilarious. But, so while it didn't work the first time, I don't think we actually were able to use all the fast passes he gave us. But still pretty neat. You get experiences like that where they're genuinely trying to make sure you have a good experience, and it's great. It's great to see stuff like that. So, but you see here, I've been kind of building on the temple a little bit. Kind of make it look like it's kind of falling down the hillside a little bit. That's kind of the idea. And once again, it is it's a generic temple here. We're not really aiming for anything, but usually there's these huge pillars, and then we'll have an obelisk here. Maybe it's kind of tilted out over the ride a little bit. Maybe it looks like you're about to hit it, but maybe not quite. So let's get some scenery in here. We'll get some torches in here. It actually was kind of fun to actually use these temple pieces as temple pieces. Usually I don't use them as that. Usually they're concrete or something else of that kind of idea. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for here. Get some torches going in this area here. Like so. This will look really good at night too. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Something like that. And like so here. So maybe it looks like it's kind of alive still. Maybe someone was going up here to do something, and that's part of the ride. It's kind of the adventure, and it's really cool to see. So let's get some plants around here. Maybe we'll put a big statue back here as well. So let's go ahead and head over to content packs. We'll go to adventure, and maybe this is the full, we'll do the full gold one up here. So if you look here, we actually we have the kind of the regular stone one in the museum center for the queue line here, but we didn't quite have the full gold one. I think right here might be a really good place to put it. Maybe have him leaning out of the temple a little bit. Let's see here. Where is a torso? Here we go. Actually, this is the one I think I want. Yeah. Where's the head at? Move this down just a little bit more and tilt the head just a little bit. Turn it just like that. So it looks like this statue is still falling apart, maybe. Do we have a different arm somewhere, maybe? Aha, we do. I think we can put one of these torches in his hand at least. We put it in both his hands if we wanted to. Put a couple in his hand maybe. Make it look like he's got a lot of fire in his hand there. There we go. And let's make sure that these aren't all aligned, because that wouldn't look, especially if it's out here in nature, it wouldn't all be quite like that. It wouldn't all be tilted to one side or tilted in the same direction even. Something like that. I think that'll work. It could be the god of thunder. I mean, it'd be Thor. Fair enough. But this is more of an adventure. Maybe this is not quite Norse mythology, but that's pretty cool. I like it, and I think once we get the foliage and stuff like that here, you won't be able to see this guy as much. Maybe you'll see at the top of his head. Yeah, I kind of like that. Even though it looks like he's broken out of his temple, which, fair enough, it could be true. But I think what we'll do is, let's see, it's almost 3 o'clock now. Let's actually build up the rest of this and maybe get this island done. I might do the rest of this foliage off stream because there's a lot to do here. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's build the rest of the temple here. That'll be a fun little thing to do. If my throat doesn't give out first. Let's see here. What? Yes, this is a pillar. If we use, hold on. I kind of want to make it look like he actually did break out of his own temple. I think that'd be kind of neat. So what if we did something like... Oop, that's not what I wanted. Something like this. We kind of lower it down to look like, you know, there was the rest of the wall there, but it looks like maybe it's broken. Like, oop, that's not quite it. There we go. And let's build the rest. We'll build the side of the wall here. Or, well, if I can get the rotation snap off. There we go. Something like this. We'll, you know, kind of buried into the ground so it looks like it's a little more grounded. Like that. And I kind of want to build this part up a little bit more. Maybe to actually show that there was a roof or something like that on it. I'm trying to think of what... like essentially, these would actually be... Hold on. Is there some smaller there? Do we have any smaller... Not really. I was kind of hoping that there was a smaller one we could have used. Because I think that's going to be too big. So if I could do something like this, maybe. And kind of wedge this part into the destroyed ruins here. Make it look like it's been kind of broken through instead. Maybe not. Well, maybe. Something like that. See, this is the kind of the points where it's like, I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing yet. So I'm kind of getting... so I'm trying a few things out, so if they don't work out, we can maybe try something a little bit different, but something you gotta try to do sometimes. It's because what was I was watching, I mean, you know, stuff like this. It says don't be afraid to try to fail, because if you don't, you know, let's say it doesn't work out the first time, you can always try something different and see how that works out, and that might work out a little bit better than what you thought you'd be doing. So, you know, I figured, you know, why not? We can give this a try. If it doesn't work out, or if we don't like it, you know, we can always do something else. I'm thinking here, though, I'm thinking, you know, these little squares here might have been more pillars, or would have been more obelisks that were there at one point, but are now, you know, either broken off or destroyed somewhere. We can even do, looks like one maybe even buried in the ground here, so we'll do something like this. Like that. I don't know where the other one would go. Maybe it slid down the hill into the river here. I don't know. But I'm thinking something like this. Let's copy this to the other side here. See how this looks. I'm also kind of setting this up like a movie set, where it maybe doesn't have a back to it, or it's covered up so you really can't see what's behind it. It doesn't look like a huge temple, though. Let's be honest here. What if we made this top part a little bit bigger, or make it look like it was bigger at one point? How do I want to do that? Maybe use this pillar here. Kind of position snap again. Just gonna go vertical a little bit more with this one. So we see, just kind of show you how big this guy really was. Kind of the idea, at least. And do something like this, maybe. Maybe this part of the roof was destroyed when he burst through it. Like so. That's all big. I'm trying to think, do we want to do something like a rounded roof on the top here? I'm trying to think. It's a little difficult to kind of think stuff like this, or think of stuff like this. I don't know. Maybe I just don't do enough venture stuff. You know, that could be it. And maybe I should do it a little bit more, just so that get a little more practice with it. Let's see. Maybe something like this. We do need to add just a little bit more. I think some ruins in here. Make it look like maybe the roof collapsed, so that it would explain why that he actually is where he is. Go back here with something like this. Just gonna fill in this gap a little bit. And rotate this around like that. It's starting to look a little bit better. It looks like he did kind of break out of the temple a little bit more, but yeah. I think we have, probably copy something like that on the other side just to do a little bit more debris. Something like this. And not as much maybe on this side. We'll keep it a little more light. Maybe a lot of it more fell on the other side for some reason. So you also remember we're not looking at it from this, or the guests are kind of looking at it from this angle. So number one, he already looks huge because you're already looking up to him. He's kind of tilted over you, so you get this sense of kind of how big this thing really is. So let's start adding some foliage in here just to kind of help cover up a little bit more. And maybe it gives a little more idea of how we want to do the rest of it. And if you guys are new, are kind of new here, you can kind of tell that while I can concentrate on a few things, I do kind of like to jump around a little bit because I'll get ideas for something and I'll want to go do it, and then I was like, oh, that's great, but then I'll get an idea for something else and then want to go do that. So doing stuff like this, it kind of helps me stay a little more focused. So it's like, cool, I can do shrubbery, or I can do some foliage, and then I can come back to kind of come back to the temple idea of, all right, how in the world would he be sitting there, or why in the world would he be sitting there, things like that. So we'll do a little vines like that. I think we won't do it too much, because if he broke out of there, I bet you a lot of those plants have actually been destroyed. So but we do want to do a few kind of tropical bushes around here. We want to keep them a little low around here so we can get some detail. Or we can still see some of the details, like the broken pillars and things like that. Let's get snapping the surface off here. Kind of go like this. Get the few bushes around here. There's that bush. then we can kind of hide our mistakes, and that's something I guess it's kind of big in model making, where if you have a mistake, you kind of want to either cover it up or show it off, and that's something that I think you can very well easily translate to theme parks. If you have a mistake like that, you can either cover it up or make it a feature, and so we're kind of doing a little bit of both here. So I think that statue is pretty big, but I like it. It kind of there's a little bit of a story to it. Maybe that Thunder Falls is actually kind of the home of this guy, and you're kind of exploring it, and all of a sudden you come across this old temple for him. It's a decent idea. It's something you could probably work with, and if you had a lot more time, you could probably get a lot more out of it. But maybe that's just me. Let's get some trees in here. And I think we'll want to make sure that these trees are a little bit going towards the river. Oh, that's not... Well, I just did a flip with that tree. We kind of want to make sure it's kind of along that path of, it's kind of tilted over and kind of tilted towards the river because it's on this hillside. And I think it looks like it's kind of falling into the river, which number one isn't a great thing, but engineering wise is not a good thing. So, Robbins Woods, how you doing today? Just a little more bushes along the river here. I think they kind of help clean. You know what? We can also do rocks. Let's do some rocks around here. Never underestimate the power of a good rock, because that is you can actually really kind of set off a landscape with just some light rock work. And I don't think I use rocks enough in landscaping, but yeah, something like that. And I think I'll leave this open to they eventually or at one point there was a path that led up there. But we'll put the rock work on either side here. Been kind of busy on the stream here. I'm kind of happy to see that. I mean, there's, before I think it seems like my Planet Coasters are always my best streams. I do stream 3 times a week, but I always stream Planet Coaster on Tuesdays, and it seems like a lot of people like to come out to watch this. They give me ideas. They like to chat and just kind of hang out, and it's actually been kind of fun. So, yeah, thank you all for watching today. I really do appreciate it. We got about an hour left of the stream. So, either way, hopefully, I'm hoping to get this peninsula done. So from pretty much here around this side, and that's why I wanted to put the temple in, so we can kind of get the idea of, how much foliage we'll need. And then I'll do the foliage on the outside later. I might do it on stream, or I might work on a little bit on stream, but for the most part, it'll probably be off stream, just because we took a little bit of time last week and did it, and it just took a while. I'm like, you know what, I probably should do some of this off stream so we don't have to do the same thing over and over again. And then next week we can move on to a different ride as well. So I think that'll work out pretty well. I'm thinking maybe here we actually have a tree. It looks like it's growing through the temple here. I think that might work out pretty well. I like how that looks. Maybe one more over here. Maybe we do a different kind of tree over here. Now, fair enough, these aren't really indicative to like a rainforest or anything like that, but that's kind of the issue we got to work on, is that we don't have the funds, in this park wouldn't, to bring in these big exotic trees, so we have to kind of make do with what we have. Now, something like that, I think that looks pretty cool. It looks like there's the trees are starting to grow through this temple here, and maybe that's it's starting to kind of fade back into nature here. I also want to take a look at this thing at night. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, look at that. Kind of get that look up from the ride here. Hold on. Oh, well, this camera does not want to cooperate today. Look at that. That looks pretty neat. I'm pretty happy with that. So, yeah, I think we'll kind of leave a little bit more area on, maybe even on this peninsula, a little more open. But yeah, I think that's what's going to be the temple scene, essentially. That's kind of the climax of the ride. You can finally see this guy in all of his glory. I should name him. I really should. But you know, so we'll start doing some light bushwork around here. And so essentially, what this is a little more grown, in a little bit over here. I'll leave a little bit of a path right in here for maintenance to get back to this chain lift over here, or lift over here. I think that'll be, a smart thing to do, because if they can't get good access to a certain area, it kind of becomes a problem. Get a little more water. My throat is, usually I have no problem speaking for 3 hours, and it's kind of what I do. I talk a lot on these streams, and for just being by myself, it's not too bad. If I was with somebody else, maybe a little bit easier. But for some reason today, it just doesn't. My throat does not want to keep up with me today. Alrighty, so let's continue up this way here towards the temple. Now, the temple itself, I don't care if I kind of bush it off like this, because it really, to be honest with you, there's not really many moving parts there. I'll have a little bit of a path on the top of the hill there, but to me, they wouldn't have to go back there very often, maybe just to change the lights and the torches and stuff like that, and that's about it. So, to me, it's okay. It's fine. Something like some more bushes up in here. Now, I've also found something kind of interesting. It's hard to do something that looks random. I think I talked about this a little bit in the last stream, but like nature itself is random. There's no pattern. There's not really any patterns to it. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And then you're going to have to try to recreate it in something like this. It can be a little difficult. It's like, even with our technology now, even computers have a hard time with randomization. I know when I would, do a card, like I do a card game or something like that, and I tell it to randomize the cards in a deck so that it can, be dealt out or whatever. It has a hard time with it. I mean, a formula to do a randomization is quite a long. It's probably like, usually it's like one line of code, but you have to have 10 or 12 other things to actually make it work properly. And so yeah, randomization, even in something like this, is a little difficult. And so it's taken me a little while to actually kind of get decent with it. I do know some of the best things you can do is just randomly turn things and randomly raise and lower it. That will help you quite a bit to actually make this look a little more realistic. It's kind of something like this. As you can, hold it for a second, raise it up, lower it a bit, turn it. And then you kind of get this look, or you kind of get a little more natural look, I've kind of noticed. But rotating things, especially, will help with how things look for some reason. I have no idea why, but I've noticed that. And, I'm beginning to wonder if I really do want all this to be wooden like this. I mean, I like the look of it over here when you actually add all the trees and stuff like that into it. But I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of it in here, which, fair enough. It's an adventure ride. It's going to be a lot of trees and stuff like that. And we do have some sparse areas of human activity, essentially. But, in theory, there wouldn't be a lot of it out here. A lot of the story would have to come through what people say on the ride, like voiceovers, or what you can actually see on the ride, or what little you can see on the ride. Because not saying something can actually tell more than if you say something. If you don't see a lot of people out here, maybe this is a part that hasn't been explored very much, or something like that. And they just kind of, you know, I guess kind of the idea is for this ride, let's work on a little story while we work on these trees. The idea is this company that hosts Thunder Falls. It's the Thunder Falls Expedition Company. Think like Jungle Cruise. They're not the best company in the world, and you can even see there's a gag in the station that I love. It says, "Lost luggage, out to lunch, be back in 20 minutes, the keys under the mat." There actually is a mat here. That's kind of the idea of this. They're not the best company in the world, so they're like, cool, we found these really cool waterfalls, let's just set up a rafting expedition, and they really don't explore it. And so you really don't see very much except for the nature around here. And then, like, they have this huge, issue with logs getting jammed up in here, so that's why you get diverted into the cave here, and things like that. So it's stuff like that it's like, I kind of wanted to make it a little more kind of free-handed, because you can also see the statue here of the original guy, which has the 2 gold arms on it. I might change that here shortly, but you kind of can see that, and this is our control room for the ride. And that scene's actually pretty cool when you pop out of the cave here, you see all the parts. But yeah, so it's kind of the idea where they haven't really explored this area very much, but they're going to just kind of wing it. And you can see how winging it almost got them. They crashed, let's be honest here. So, kind of give you that idea of what this ride's all about. And to be honest with you, I think it works out pretty well. Maybe these bamboo shoots, they're worse. I've heard bamboo can pretty much grow anywhere if it's hot and humid. And where I live, it stays that way for about half a year. The other half is it can be really cold and dry. But maybe something like that, just to kind of help fill in some space, give a little more green texture to the place. And bamboo fills up an area really quickly, so I'm okay with that. You can kind of see here how fast you can actually turn just a regular hillside into very lush grass area very quickly, which is awesome, because then you don't have to take as many parts up, things like that. However, you just got to be kind of careful with how you use it. For a ride like this, maybe it works a little bit better, just because it's supposed to be kind of out in the middle of nowhere. But if you did this for like a roller coaster or something like that, unless it's a really old coaster, probably wouldn't make any sense, to be honest with you. If you look at, I know Kings Island, I mentioned them quite a bit. They just opened a new coaster up. If you actually go walk underneath that coaster when it's not operating or something like that, it's bare down there. There's hardly anything. It's usually dirt and gravel still there. But if you go to something like the Beast or something like that, a ride that's been there for 50 years or 40 years or whatever, you can kind of see that there's grass and there's some trees that are maybe a little bit smaller or something like that, kind of growing up again. And so you got to think about this. So in our story here, this ride was built in 1985, and if we're going with a modern day interpretation of where it's 2020 in this game too. This ride would have been 35 years old, so these plants would have had plenty of time to actually grown in, to actually have taken root and stuff like that. So I don't mind doing a little bit more of a vibrant color here. So yeah, it feels pretty neat. If you guys are actually really into stuff like this, I'm not the best Planet Coaster player in the world, I'll be honest with you. There are some really great ones. If you go onto YouTube, you can Google them. Bro Nation is a very good one. It's Mike and Matt. Or is it Mike? Shoot. That's really bad if I can't remember one of the main guys' names. But you got Mass Bandit on there, and there's the other guy. I want to say his name's Mike, and I could be wrong about that. But they're both really good. They do No Name Landia, which is a great park. You got things like Jubilee Gardens, and Pinewood Hills is a great one. I know some of those players are more into Planet Zoo right now. Not all of them. I even have Planet Zoo. I'm just not a huge fan of zoos, to be honest with you. I've been to zoos. I've been to 2 or 3 of them. And they're nice. I just think I like the idea of an amusement park better. But I've played Planet Zoo, and it's a fun little game. But I think I just prefer amusement parks more. That's all. Yeah, you can go on to YouTube and find a bunch of really good creators on there, on just doing, you know, stuff that, you know, way better than this, you know, by leaps and bounds. There is one guy, and I don't remember, or girl, it could be a girl too. There's actually quite a few female builders here, which are really amazing to see. I'm trying to think who it was. There was somebody who actually built a model or a version of Disneyland's Tomorrowland in the 1960s, I believe it was. It's incredible. Like, the detail of it is fantastic. My computer would have a heart attack if I did something like that. But it's just stuff like that. It's really amazing what you can do in this game. I'm just happy with the stuff I do. But then I see stuff like that, and it's like, man, they put hundreds of hours in this game. I think I'm probably around 350 right now. So, you know, it does take a little bit of work to get something like this going. But let's see here. I think just maybe up to here we'll put some rocks. You know, kind of aligning this, you know, border with rocks. I think that looks really nice, just to kind of make it look a little more sturdy. It looks kind of like it's almost like a fortification of some sort, but it's more natural that way, and it kind of sets off the green a little bit more, and it kind of helps break it up just a little bit, so you don't have the green track, the green ground, and the green plant. So you have this kind of nice gray wall there. Something else I kind of encourage too, if you guys are, you know, if you guys get any tips from me, mix in different rocks into your thing here. So like, I like using, when we do alpine rocks, I do mix in with delicious rocks because they have a little bit of the same color, but they do have enough variation in them to where you can kind of tell that maybe there's something a little bit different about them. Especially these larger rocks here, you get something like this, and then if I'll do something like this, and then move it down and kind of in, you can kind of see it looks like there's just different layers of rocks in here. I think it looks really nice when you do stuff like this. And you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it everywhere, and you don't have to do it every time. That's kind of the beauty of it. And this might be fake rock that you are putting up here, and that might stick over the rind a little much, or a little more than I'd like it to. So we just kind of turn it a little more and push it back into this rock here. But you still get that layer of rock here, and you know, I've been thinking about putting like a bunch of like wall here and stuff like that. I might just leave this open like this and put a fence and put a little, like a short garden here, so you can still see all this, because I really like how this has turned out. And I think this will be kind of the path here. So let's go ahead and paint it. So it looks like there's maybe a walking path, but maybe not like an official path. Maybe that this is just an area that maintenance comes down every once in a while to make sure this is all working correctly. So let's just kind of paint this in here. Let's, you know, real quick like this. And then we'll go back through here and just kind of dot it with a little bit different colors. Because, you know, a little variation works pretty well. Especially in stuff like this where you're painting. If you have all one flat color, it doesn't look as good. But if you kind of mix up the colors, especially if you can do different shades of a color, it makes it look a little bit nicer. So far, I think this peninsula is actually going along really well. Not as many trees, I've noticed. I've been doing a lot more bushes and a lot more bamboo and stuff like that. And I think that's working out pretty well for us so far. Essentially, I want to come across this hill here and then over here. Eventually, I do want to put a little bit of a bridge somewhere over here so that that they can get across here if they need to do maintenance. Not 100% sure how I'm going to do that yet, but we'll figure it out. Go ahead and start doing more bushes over here. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the bushes down front here. Yeah, we'll do the bushes down front, and then as we go to the top here, we'll get a little bit taller, and then we'll add the bamboo in. I think that's it's a pretty good way. It seems like it's been working out so far for what we've been doing. Something like this. Just gonna rotate these. this. Kind of go back up. Start building the next layer up a little bit here. That. We need to add some of the forest bushes in here because it is a little dark in here, but that's okay. I feel like Bob Ross right now with all these happy little trees and happy little bushes. It's all fine. Let's see here. Where's the bamboo at? It's actually under trees, isn't it? I believe. I think it is, yeah. So, alright. So there is that. Once again, I'll leave that path up here so that they can get back here a little bit. But I think that's kind of how I want to do this, the rest of this. But it kind of mix it up a little bit. I do want to. I'll bring some bamboo actually kind of down here. Let's see. Let's use a small stand here. Let's something like this. And kind of bring this down here. And I might use some rock work in here too. But I kind of want to make it look like there's a little bit of a divide, maybe that the bamboo kind of has been growing a little bit, kind of funky a little bit. Maybe it was just kind of growing in patches here. So I'll fill this area with some bushes here. Like this. Keep on rotating this around. Come on. Goes. What kind of worries me though is this game starting to slow down. It's not because of auto-saving. I don't know if there's something I'm running that slowing it down a little bit or what, but it's stuttering just a little bit, I've noticed. And these larger parks, it can. It's a little harder to live stream. If you watch, a lot of those guys don't really live stream a lot. They do a lot of edited content because of stuff like this. It comes a point where a park becomes too big to really like move around very cleanly, and so you have to kind of turn down stuff, and then when they film or whatever, they kind of turn it back up a little bit. So